Good evening, everyone. Let me first welcome House Republicans back to the Congress after their 7-week taxpayer-funded vacation. These people have been missing in action, absent without official leave, running scared, but they can no longer hide. The Rules Committee is going to meet shortly, and then tomorrow there will be votes on the House floor. And Democrats will continue to press the case, to say to our Republican colleagues, you have another opportunity to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits and make sure that tens of millions of Americans all across the country in communities that Republicans represent, along with us as Democrats, tens of millions of Americans, rural America, working class America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and in black and brown communities all across America, people at risk of experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Before the Rules Committee this evening, House Democrats, led by myself and Whip Catherine Clark, will give the Republicans another opportunity to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits by introducing an amendment that will extend these tax credits for a 3-year period of time. Same period of time that these tax credits were extended back in 2022. Republicans have created a health care crisis all across America. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers closing all throughout the country because of what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. Medicare still at risk of the largest cut it may confront in American history unless Congress acts by the end of this year. And of course, because of the Republican refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the midst of a cost of living crisis that already exists, that they failed to address, health care for people all across this country is on the brink of becoming unaffordable. Working class Americans, everyday Americans, middle class Americans, unable to afford to go see a doctor. This is in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And so once again, House Republicans, welcome back from your taxpayer-funded 7-week vacation. You now have an opportunity to actually take some action in an area of this health care crisis by working with Democrats before the Rules Committee this evening to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's now my honor to introduce Whip Catherine Clark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leader, and we are indeed looking forward to the return of the missing House GOP. 54 days. I know the dust has settled on their desks. I hope they can find their voting cards, and I hope, as Speaker Johnson said, when they were home on their vacation, doing the most, quote, meaningful work of their careers, that included talking to their neighbors, talking to their constituents, because I can tell you what we are hearing from people across this country. It is fear, it is anxiety. The thought that they may lose their ACA insurance, the thought that they may lose their Medicaid or Medicare, because of the agenda of the House GOP. Take away health care and give permanent tax cuts to the very, very wealthiest in this country. I hope that Mike Johnson talked to Morgan in Ruston, Louisiana. Morgan's son needs an inhaler that is paid for through her health insurance, and he needs frequent trips to the doctor to be able to survive and have a childhood he deserves. Morgan is so fearful that if she loses that coverage that her son depends on, there are no backup plans. There's no plan B. And so we are saying, listen to the American people and what they are telling you. I hope that you listened to them when you were home, avoiding coming to do your jobs here in the Capitol. And I hope, as the leader has said, you will take this opportunity tonight. We can't undo all the damage they've done, but extend the ACA tax credits for 3 years. Give small business owners, farmers across this country, moms and dads who depend on the ACA in order to get their coverage. Tell them they don't have to have sleepless nights worrying that their cancer treatment for their spouse might not be able to continue. They may not be able to manage their own diabetes, and they may not be able to find health care when they have a sick child. These are the very real cries of Americans. House Democrats are going to remain in this fight, and I hope that on their 54 days, they heard the American people loudly and clearly and will come back to their senses and do what's right and protect health care in this country. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our ranking member and fellow Bay Stater on the Rules Committee, Jim McGovern.
Thank you. So 8 weeks ago, Speaker Mike Johnson sent the House of Representatives home. He basically abolished the House of Representatives. And he did so because he cares more about giving tax breaks to billionaires than he cares about extending tax relief to working families so they can afford their health care. I took the train down here today because I wanted to make sure I got here for the Rules Committee meeting. I got an earful from a lot of people. People are pissed. People don't understand why this is so difficult. That in a Congress that, again, passes these huge benefits for corporations and for the well-off and the well-connected, can't find it within their politics to be able to pass relief to middle-class families who are going to not be able to afford their health insurance. I mean, this is not a talking point. This is real life. I mean, I've had constituents come up to me and tell me that they don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they can't afford the skyrocketing costs of their health insurance. This is a life or death issue for people. I have people coming up to me and saying they're going to go without health care for a year or two. They just roll the dice and maybe everything will work out okay. Health care ought to be a fundamental human right for everybody in this country. That this is so difficult tells you everything you need to know about the character of the people who are running this House of Representatives right now and the man in the White House. This is disgusting. This is immoral. We're going to go to the Rules Committee and we're going to take the fight directly to the Republicans up in the Rules Committee. But this should be a no-brainer. This should be a no-brainer. And yet it is becoming this enormous mountain to try to climb in order just to get some help so that people don't lose their health insurance. What the hell is wrong with these people? Again, I mean, I wish Donald Trump could have been on the train with me today and heard some of the stories that I heard, but I don't think he ever has been on a train. I don't know. He lives in a bubble. But I wish some of my Republican colleagues were on that train. How can you not extend these tax benefits for people who are in such desperate need? Look, we're going to continue to try. The beautiful thing about politics is you never lose until you give up trying, and we're not going to give up, and we're going to fight like hell until this gets done. And with that, I'm happy to yield to one of my wonderful members of the Rules Committee, Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've had this fight going all year, and I've been trying to figure out a way to break it down. But basically, there were two big tax issues that were coming due at the end of this year. One was the tax cuts for billionaires, and the other was the tax credits for folks who get the Affordable Care Act. In July, Speaker Johnson called us back, dragged us back here 4th of July weekend, so they could ram through the tax cuts for billionaires. But when it came time to extend the tax credits for everyday Americans, they went on vacation. They went on vacation early. They said, oh, we don't have to really deal with that. They were unwilling to negotiate with Democrats, and they just left town. So like my colleagues here, I've been hearing from my constituents throughout this period of time when we have not been here in D.C., which we have regularly been in D.C., trying to do the work. But just this morning, I was at the largest Veterans Day parade in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in Media, and I had veterans coming up to me saying, keep fighting. This is killing us. This health insurance issue, my daughter can't get her insurance. She's concerned about her family. I hear from the folks I walk dogs with in the morning that they're thinking about going without coverage because they've got a small business and they can't afford the increases that they're seeing. Hearing from a veteran whose Social Security just barely covers her rent, and she doesn't know what she's going to do for health insurance for her family. It's hitting Americans, and they're not stupid. They know who's fighting for them, and we're going to keep fighting for them. So thank you for paying attention, and this is not over. With that, I would like to yield to my classmate and colleague from the Rules Committee, Joe Neguse from Colorado.
Well, I think my colleagues articulated well, and of course Leader Jeffries articulated well, the stakes for millions of Americans whose premiums are skyrocketing, including the many constituents that I represent in Colorado. But I do just want to underscore a point that Chairman McGovern made. And in particular, I say this for the press that are gathered here. Many of you whom have covered the developments in this Capitol for a long time, who were here when Speaker McCarthy was Speaker, when Speaker Pelosi was Speaker, when Speaker Ryan was presiding. This is one of the most shameful episodes, in my view, in the modern history of the Congress. The decision that Speaker Johnson made to recess the House for 54 days, to send Republican members home on paid vacation for 8 weeks, is disgraceful. It is a debasement of our Constitution. It is unprecedented. And every Republican member, as they arrive this evening and tomorrow morning, ought to be asked the question, why they endorsed this abdication of Congress's power for the last 8 weeks, why they supported the Speaker's decision to send the Congress on vacation for 8 weeks as premiums are skyrocketing for millions of Americans. There's a reason, as the leader has articulated previously, that Steve Bannon has compared the Congress to the Duma. It's because that is the way in which Speaker Johnson and House Republicans are functioning. And it is time for accountability. As the Speaker, or excuse me, as the leader and as the whip referenced, Republicans have an opportunity now that they finally ended their 54-day vacation to do the right thing. We're going to give them that opportunity in the Rules Committee, which is the first committee hearing in the House that will have been held since September. Shameful. And I know my colleagues on the Rules Committee feel the same way, including my colleague from the West, my neighbor in New Mexico, Representative Ledger Fernandez.
Buenas noches. It has indeed been a while. But tonight at the Rules Committee, as you've heard, we are going to give the Republicans their last chance to show America whether they're going to stand up for the working families and the small businesses in America who need those tax credits, or whether they're going to let them die because they don't get health care, because they have to drop their health insurance because it's too expensive. You know, Madam Rep. Clark, the issue of that inhaler, one of the stories that was told to me was a friend of mine said, I want you to take this story back. My brother lost his health insurance. That inhaler would cost $10 or $20 with his insurance. He'd have to go to the emergency room to get a $10 inhaler because without insurance it costs $400. He died gasping for breath because he couldn't afford an inhaler. People will die with this decision that Republicans seem to want to make. And they moved heaven and earth to pass those tax credits for the billionaires before July 4th, but can't get around to passing the tax credits for working families before they expire in December. So we're going to be bringing these amendments and asking them to vote, asking them to go on the record on the extension of the health credits on regards to what's happening in rural America, a district I represent. And what about those SNAP benefits where states have stepped up like New Mexico to make sure that our people don't go hungry? And finally, addressing the fact that the senators are giving themselves a $500,000 to $1 million or more payment. I call it the January 6th cash out payment. They can't make health care affordable for a father and his children, but they're willing to pay themselves millions of dollars. And it is true. We only lose this fight if we give up the fight, and Democrats have been fighting Republicans in a long struggle to provide health care to Americans. We have been fighting Republicans when we created Medicare, when we created Medicaid, when we created the Affordable Care Act, and we're going to not give up that fight because we want all Americans to be able to have health care, including Marjorie Taylor Greene's kids, right? We want everybody everywhere to have health care. And with that, we're ready to go up to the Rules Committee, but I'll pass it back to our wonderful leader.
I thank the distinguished members of the Rules Committee, as well as my good friend Catherine Clark, for their comments, for their leadership. Democrats have been engaged in this struggle on behalf of the health care of the American people for a long time. FDR engaged in this struggle. Johnson engaged in this struggle. Truman engaged in this struggle. Bill Clinton engaged in this struggle. Barack Obama engaged in this struggle. House Democrats are here to continue to engage in this struggle to decisively address the Republican health care crisis, standing on the shoulders of Democrats who for decades have been fighting to deliver affordable, high-quality health care for the American people. Questions?
Yeah, thank you. So a provision was added into the legislation with regard to a potential, I think you're referring to, that senators could essentially sue the U.S. government for up to $500,000 if they can prove that the data was used in investigations. What do you say to that, and is there any chance that that will be removed from the CR?
House Democrats are going to offer an amendment before the Rules Committee to get that self-dealing sick provision out of the spending agreement. The notion that 8 Republican senators signed off by John Thune and the Republicans, apparently in the Senate and in the House, would give themselves the ability, essentially, to rip millions of taxpayer dollars away from the American people so they could line their pockets because these people were insurrectionist sympathizers is insanity. And we're going to tattoo that provision, just like we're going to tattoo the Republican health care crisis on the foreheads of every single House Republican who dares vote for this bill. Manu?
There have been a number of members of your own caucus who have called on Senator Schumer to be replaced as Democratic leader. Are you okay with those calls coming from within your own caucus?
As I've indicated, we're focused right now on pressing the case in addressing the Republican health care crisis. We'll be before the Rules Committee in moments. We'll have a family conversation as House Democrats. We're strongly opposed as House Democrats to this reckless Republican effort to continue to raise the high cost of living on everyday Americans, which is exactly what they're doing by failing to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Nicole?
Even though you said that Democrats are opposed, you would expect any Democrats to defect tomorrow like they did in the Senate?
I will have that conversation during our caucus meeting at noon, but our strong expectation is that Democrats will be strongly opposed. Many have issued statements. The New Dem coalition came out today. That's the largest caucus within the House Democratic Caucus opposed to this Republican spending bill because it fails to address the health care crisis that Republicans have created.
Absolutely.
Michael?
Thank you. Mr. McGovern mentioned he rode the train to make it back in town. Obviously, all of your members are trying to get back. Do you anticipate all Democrats will be here tomorrow in order to oppose this bill and put pressure on Speaker Johnson to rally all of his members to support the legislation?
Yes.
Congresswoman-elect Alina Grijalva is scheduled to be sworn in tomorrow, and then you expect, she has said she will sign the discharge petition, the Massey discharge petition. Can you tell us when you would expect that vote to actually happen? Just explain to people who have been waiting for this for so long. Explain when you would expect that Epstein vote.
Yeah, let me defer to Whip Clark and once and future Chairman Jim McGovern on that issue.
Thank you. It is long overdue that the Congresswoman-elect take her place, her rightful place, and be sworn in. So we are being told by the Republicans that that will happen now. They anticipate at 4 o'clock tomorrow before we begin debate on the rule. And it is just another one of those breathtaking split screens that as they are home and we are watching this suffering going on, that they have also decided to put off swearing in Congresswoman-elect Grijalva because they don't want her to sign a discharge petition that would force a vote on the Epstein files. So they don't want to give Americans health care, and they don't want to find justice for the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein. It is an amazingly arrogant and dangerous statement that they are making to the American people about their own security.
And it should if she signs it tomorrow, it should ripen in early December, so we can expect a vote. I mean, that doesn't mean that the Speaker of the House might try to do some, shenanigans with the discharge petition, but if all goes the way we want it to go, early December.
It's unbelievable that for 7+ weeks, Representative-elect Alina Grijalva was elected in late September decisively, has been denied the ability to serve more than 800,000 people in Arizona. And why is that the case? It's because Republicans are running a pedophile protection program. They are intentionally hiding the Jeffrey Epstein files. But those days are over, because as soon as Representative-elect Alina Grijalva becomes Congresswoman Grijalva, her first act, as she's indicated, is going to be to sign that discharge petition. It's going to force a vote on the House floor, and the American people are going to get the transparency that they deserve.
Jeffries, you've not taken off the table a discharge petition on the estate subsidy. Excuse me. So, have you had any outreach yet to Republicans on that, or is it too soon for?
We haven't had any conversations with Republicans. We're going to be before the Rules Committee shortly. We're going to introduce an amendment that gives them an opportunity to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and we're going to continue to make the point to our Republican colleagues. Our position is simple: cancel the cuts, lower the costs, save health care. Thank you, everyone.